Good morning to everyone in Mexico, and good evening to everyone in Russia. We give you the most cordial welcome to the National Council of Humanities, Science and Technologies, Conahcyt. Thank you for joining us in this auditorium, and thank you to those who follow us virtually. Please be welcome to this very important event regarding the signing of the agreement between Conahcyt and the Institute of Plant Genetic Resources of Vavilov. Today, at this event, we count with the presence of our authorities, Dra. María Elena Álvarez Bulla Roses, Director General of the National Council for Humanities, Science and Technologies, and Dra. Elena Kuetskina, Director of the Institute of Plant Genetic Resources of Nikolai Ivanovich Vavilov. Thank you very much for being with us. Likewise, we welcome the rest of the people who is joining us at Conahcyt in person and those who are joining us virtually. To begin this event, His Excellency Mr. Eduardo Villegas Mejías, Ambassador from Mexico in the Russian Federation, will give some opening words. Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Dear friends, buenos días en México. Un saludo a María Elena Álvarez Bulla y a todo el equipo de Conahcyt y a los representantes de la Embajada de Rusia en México. Добрый день в России. Я приветствую своих друзей Института имени Вавилова и друзей правительства города Петербурга. I am deeply honored to open this event. When I was getting ready to come to Russia, I was trying to find out what else could I do to help my country while abroad. Of course, I was aware of the many achievements of the Russian Federation in fields such as mathematics, physics, and chemistry. But it was indeed a pleasant surprise to the discovery of the Vavilov Research Institute. As soon as I read about this institute, I contacted María Elena and some other relevant people in Mexico to ask them whether it was a good idea or not to seek in collaboration with the Vavilov. Their enthusiastic response prompted me to pursue this project. Food security is a top priority to Mexico. And so here we are. Only 2 months after arriving to Moscow, I had the chance to meet with Alexander Vavilov, the governor of St. Petersburg. But I also wanted to take advantage of the trip to meet with the board of the Vavilov Institute. And Elena Lyostkina and her wonderful team gave me a warm welcome. So I knew it was only a matter of political will and persistence to reach a formal agreement. And we all have had political will, and we all have been persistent. I am convinced that this agreement will benefit both Russia and Mexico. This agreement will benefit researchers and teachers. This agreement will benefit farmers and producers. In short, this agreement will benefit the people of Mexico and the people of Russia. And I am very proud to have been the bridge that made this happen. Большое вам спасибо и удачи. Muchas éxito y muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to Ambassador Villegas. Now, our Director General, Dra. María Elena Álvarez Bulla Roses, will give an institutional message. Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning to all in Mexico. Good morning to all in Russia. I wish I could speak Russian. I cannot. So we will speak in English for today. It is a great honor for me, on behalf of the Government of Mexico, through the National Council of Humanities, Sciences and Technologies, to consolidate this international collaboration with the All-Russian Institute of Plant Genetic Resources of Nikolai Vavilov, world-renowned institution in biodiversity research. It is also a life reservoir that protects this richness and part of the Ministry of Sciences in Higher Education of Russia. It is a great pleasure to greet those who chair this event and who are joining us to be able to increase our capacities both in Russia and in Mexico to preserve biodiversity for the well-being of the whole humanity. Elena Kuetskina, Director of the Institute of Plant Genetic Resources of Vavilov, His Excellency Mr. Eduardo Villegas Mejias, Ambassador of Mexico in the Russian Federation, who is key for this event today and who has already summarized the previous events that made this assignment possible. Mr. Sergei Paryomenko, sorry for the pronunciation, Counselor of the Russian Embassy in Mexico, Mr. Alexei Averyanov, Head of the International Cooperation Department of the City of St. Petersburg, all the colleagues from the Vavilov Institute, please receive my welcoming regards today. And my team, of course, in Mexico, in this new Conahcyt, Dr. Alejandro Espinosa Calderon. He is the Executive Secretary of the Interministerial Commission on Biosafety of Genetically Modified Organisms, and Dr. Delia Aide Orozco Hernandez, Deputy General Director of Technological Development and Innovation from Conahcyt. I am very, very happy to be today. This partnership between Conahcyt and the Vavilov Institute, with the signing of this agreement, I am sure that our countries will pay tribute to the dreams of the botanist and geneticist Nikolai Vavilov, and also to preceding scientists in Mexico who have stated how important is it for the future of humanity to preserve the biodiversity of Mexico. Vavilov, in the 20th century, undertook actions for the research, the Vavilov Institute, for the research and conservation of the genetic legacy of the world's plants, and the farming communities who have defended the fields to feed the people and humanity. This cooperation agreement that calls us together today is aligned to the perspective of Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and the new Conahcyt with an H for humanities, now guiding our work here from Conahcyt. The new Conahcyt was refounded in this government with the implementation of the first general law on humanities, sciences, technologies, and innovation, which is based on the human right to science and other fundamental rights in order to assure the well-being of the people and the environment. In other words, and in a few words, we do not want scientific and technological development for the war. We want scientific and technological development for peace and for the well-being of the whole humanity. Our nation, Mexico, is a mega-diverse country, place of origin, diversity and domestication of tens of multiple crops and plants that constitute the biological basis of our national food safety and also of the worldwide food safety. But it is also at the basis of our food sovereignty. The Russian botanist Vavilov found in Mexico an agro-diverse nation with corn, bean, cotton, peppers, pumpkin, many others, cocoa also. During his first extensive collection of seeds in our country, he identified more than 50 edible species and 20 ornamental species. About between 15 and 20% of the plants that are used as food in the whole world today were originated and or diversified in Mexico. From 1920, when Vavilov began his collection, to the present, scientific, technological, and humanistic research has passed and faced different challenges. For example, I list some of the important ones here. The development of a voracious and neoliberal science, which under economic and private interests and without ethical limits, promoted, for example, the genetically modified technologies, which are not guided by the well-being of the humanity, of human health and ecosystems, and on the other hand focuses only on very few species to promote business in the fields where the food of the world is being produced. A catastrophic socio-environmental crisis that jeopardizes all ecosystems and all life are also a threat against biodiversity. Mexicans have historically suffered from the dispossession of their territories and minimized their work as guardians of their environmental and cultural richness. This has also impoverished the biodiversity in the Mexican environment. Now, Mexico is under a very deep political and social transformation, which is committed in favor of the general well-being, justice for all people, and protecting the environment. In this context, we are so happy to achieve this collaboration, which I am sure will promote and strengthen the relationship between Mexico and Russia in the technical and scientific aspects that are key for this very important goal, preserving and valuing as it should the great biodiversity of our country in favor of our people. Recent studies claim that small-scale production represents 95% of genetic diversity resources in the world, and Mexico is one of the richest countries in terms of agrobiodiversity that it's generated and preserved in the hands of these smallhold peasant communities in our country. Eckhard Boge, one of our scientists, has very clearly stated that indigenous populations and local communities are those who have domesticated, diversified, and continue to diversify and disperse the very high level of agrobiodiversity that is at the basis of our food sovereignty in Mexico. For all these reasons, we believe that the academic exchange of researchers, training and short stays for young researchers in these areas of biodiversity, preservation and valuing calls for joint projects, the organizations of seminars, workshops, or other scientific dissemination events, as well as the recognition of traditional knowledge, collections, protection, selection, and preserving this important richness of the world, not as private resources, but as common resources for the whole humanity. I am sure that this joint collaboration between Mexico and Russia, particularly the Vavilov Institute, will greatly help us protect our national sovereignty and particularly our sovereignty in food production and food consumption in general. From Conahcyt, guided by Mexican humanism, we promote scientific research and sovereign innovation for the well-being and prosperity of our nation and fraternal nations like Russia, of course, with whom we began a historic collaboration in favor of science and common benefit. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our Director General of Conahcyt. Following our program, we welcome Dr. Ms. Elena Kotskina, Director of the Vavilov Institute, whom we respectfully request to give her message. Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. It's evening now. And добрый вечер, уважаемые коллеги. I will let me to continue my speak in English. Я позволю себе продолжить мою речь на английском языке. It is my pleasure and honor to speak in front of you and to sign agreement between VIR, the first world's gene bank, known as Vavilov Center of Plant Genetic Resources, and Conahcyt, the main research body in Mexico, the National Council of Humanities, Sciences, and Technologies. Our Plant Genetic Resources Center was established almost 130 years ago as a small bureau of applied botany in Imperial Russia, with Nikolai Vavilov, who led the bureau since 1920. This small bureau began very fast to grow and became the first world's gene bank, as well as the big research center with multidisciplinary research of cultivated plants and wild relatives. Studying the great diversity of plant material, Vavilov was the first to see patterns in repetitive variability, and he formulated the law of homological series in hereditary variability. It is one of two basic laws, together with Mendel's law, which lies as a fundament of genetics. Armed with this law, Vavilov undertook a large-scale targeted search for samples of various plant species with desired mutations, with desired genes. First collection missions and his deep analysis of cultivated plants using geographical principles allowed Vavilov to find so-called centers of origin of cultivated plants. So Vavilov was the first who exactly knew how to find new genes useful for plant breeding. And he also knew where to find these genes. Such a targeted search helped him to do a lot in a short time. Vavilov organized more than 180 collection missions around the world. And it was time then there were no planes, no highways, no fast trains. And the result of these collection missions, many samples of seeds were shipped to create the first gene bank. Majority of countries worldwide have followed Vavilov's initiative since. To find, to collect, and to preserve were not the final goals of Vavilov's mission. To study these plants at different environments, to work for separation of pure genetic lines, and to arrange benefits for breeders from such studies, this was the important task of Vavilov. For this goal, Vavilov created several experimental field stations over the former Soviet Union, and he established a system of plant breeding which was the most modern, most efficient in that time. And all these Vavilov's ideas remain actual today, and our responsibility is to develop and to implement them. VIR has a long history of cooperation with Mexican colleagues. These relations were established by Nikolai Vavilov and Sergei Bukasov during their collection missions in Mexico in 1920s, 1930s. These connections were further developed and expanded by the next generation of VIR researchers in the second half of the 20th century. Furthermore, in 1980s, a field station of VIR was functioning for several years on the territory of Mexico, and it was the place for both important and effective joint research and also intensive training for young scientists from Mexico and from Russia. And I am very glad that today we are regaining our collaboration on a really strong fundament. It is difficult to overestimate the importance of Mexico for the world's agrobiodiversity and plant biology and crop breeding. It is one of the key centers of origin of many important cultivated plants that provided researchers and breeders with diverse genetic materials.
Nowadays, Mexico is paying significant attention to development of science and technologies based on the national treasures, with people and plants being among the first ones. It is important to mention that the issues of the national food security, public health, and technological development are among top priorities of the Russian Federation, with a special focus on plant genetic resources, their preservation, study, and utilization. A special decree on establishing the National Center of Plant Genetic Resources here in Vir was signed by the President of the Russian Federation on the 1st of February last year. Cooperation with Mexican colleagues is a key to the successful development of research and scientific and practical programs for the breeding of corn, sunflower, pumpkin, legumes, and many other important crops that ensure food security of both Mexico itself and many other countries, including Russia. Not least are issues of biological effects of implementation of modern technologies in crop engineering. Our both institutions worry about such effects, about negative effects, including effects on resulting in erosion of agrobiodiversity. And of course, establishing of the environment for knowledge exchange and networking for new generations of our researchers is very important. By joining forces with Conahcyt, we hope to bring benefits and prosperity for both our peoples, and it is especially symbolic that we are signing a cooperation agreement just on the eve of the birthday of Nikolai Vavilov, a man who dreamed of feeding humanity and who fed the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Elena. Next in our program, we would like to proceed to the signing of the agreements. If both of our directors could please sign the agreements in front of you and show them to the camera as we proceed to take the official photography.
We have both agreed on this folder.
Thank you very much to both of our directors. And to complete our event, please welcome Mr. Sergei Parajomenko, Consular of the Russian Embassy in Mexico, who is going to provide us some closing remarks. Please, Consular, the floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, thank you for this opportunity to say a couple of words. First of all, let me thank you for inviting the embassy to this event, which is so important for the Russian and Mexican sides. Unfortunately, the Russian ambassador to Mexico, Nikolai Safinsky, could not take part because he is on a business trip to one of the states of Mexico, and today he has a busy program. In this regard, he instructed me to attend this virtual meeting, greet all of you, and convey his best wishes. Congratulations to both sides on signing such an important agreement. We are sure that thanks to this document, Russia and Mexico, through your organizations, will be able to establish fruitful scientific and technical cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Both our countries have a huge scientific, technical, and most importantly, human resources potential. In this sense, the bilateral exchange of ideas and best practices, as well as the possible implementation of joint projects, will undoubtedly not only enrich Russian-Mexican cooperation, but will also contribute to the development of relevant areas in both countries. For its part, the Russian Embassy in Mexico is ready to provide all possible support to the promotion of such practical cooperation between your organizations. We wish you, dear colleagues, every success in this noble cause. Good luck.
Thank you, Counselor. Here in Conahcyt, we want to express our gratitude for joining us in this important event. And so with this, we conclude this event regarding the signing of the agreement between our institutions. Have a great morning and a great evening. Thank you all.